The fleet that destroyed Reach was 50 times this size.
Sir, additional contacts. Boarding craft and lots of them.
They're going to try to take our MAC guns offline. Give their capital ships a straight shot at Earth. Master Chief, defend this station.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
Halo 2, the inevitable sequel to what is today an absolute icon in gaming. Over the last 2 decades, the Halo franchise has exploded into an absolute titan of the industry. In fact, this simple first-person shooter has become so prominent in the world of gaming that many rival studios marketed their own games as Halo killers. Halo Combat Evolved was undeniably awesome, but Halo 2 takes that to another level. Okay, so first and foremost, the gameplay is really fun, and it's probably not as unique as the likes of Titanfall 2, but I mean, this game is almost 2 decades old at this point, but I honestly don't think Titanfall or even Apex Legends would exist in their current form without Halo 2 leading the way. Obviously, it's not a direct descendant of that franchise, but I'm sure there's some sort of cross-inspiration, whether it's from the story-focused narrative, or gunplay, or level design, or the art and backdrops. Even today, Halo 2 is still definitely super fun and engaging. Controls still feel responsive, the sound and feedback is obviously still great, and the weapon variety is both unique and pretty large. Some guns make a return, like the Needler, the plasma rifle and the plasma pistol, but there are obviously new varieties too, like this carbine, the Sentinel beam, which is super handy and pretty necessary in some missions, and this beam rifle, which is probably my favorite. A new addition now though is the dual wielding, which I absolutely love. I didn't use it that much to be fair, but it's still really cool to have, and I'm pretty sure the way it's designed inspired the likes of Wolfenstein's new combat. And you can even dual wield with multiple weapon types too, including the alien varieties. One of the coolest weapons though has got to be the energy sword. And coupling this with the Arbiter's cloaking ability is definitely one of the coolest concepts in the game. The energy sword is probably one of the greatest weapons ever created in a video game. This weapon really just fulfills that power fantasy. You go from feeling like a scared human to feeling like the predator, just hunting down prey without fear.
Warriors, prepare for combat!
So personally, I found Halo 2 to be harder than the first game. Normally, I start most games on the higher or highest difficulty anyway, but after dying one too many times on the first mission, I just dropped it straight down to heroic instead. I'm not sure, maybe I'm burnt out or just couldn't be bothered, but I stuck with it and the rest of the game wasn't too bad. Look, some missions are definitely harder than others, and I understand the remaster made some enemies more challenging, but for the most part, it was pretty manageable. I can't comment on legendary difficulty, but you might find it easier. Okay, so one thing that in my opinion makes the game harder isn't the combat or gameplay, but the checkpoints. The checkpoints can be kind of annoying. I don't think I mentioned it in my Combat Evolved video, but they were somewhat problematic on the harder difficulties. Either they save too frequently and you get left in a position you're not safe upon respawn and you die instantly, or the checkpoints don't pop up enough and you end up having to replay entire sections without any sort of break, which can be super frustrating if you encounter a particularly difficult bit. Halo 2 for me felt like it did both at different parts of the game, and I felt like it hindered my progress. Then again, at this point, you know I'm not very good, but that's okay because I'm mainly here for the story anyway.
Cortana,
and the story?
What exactly am I looking at?
The story is something really special.
That is another Halo.
Say what?
So this is what my father found.
In my opinion, this is a game that is definitely worth experiencing. I wouldn't say there are any huge twists or anything, but Halo 2 definitely delivers a different perspective versus Combat Evolved. Again, there's just something about this whole package that builds upon and exceeds the first game. This is now a 2-decade-old game and it's not a spoiler, I think, but the fact that you get to play as the Arbiter adds a level of distinction that I can only imagine has inspired various other devs. And the way the story is told from opposing sides adds a level of depth that, in my opinion, pushes this game into the next level. The juxtaposition between the success of Master Chief and the failure of the Arbiter really shines a light on the game's lore and expands on so much of the world. There's also these little terminal entries that you can activate to further show off how much thought has been put into the world. They're definitely not a must-do part of the game, but more of a little tidbit for the lore junkies, and although I didn't collect them all, I really appreciated the devs for adding them in. I thought the ending was also really interesting. After everything, I've just got more questions, and I feel like the original intent was to make this a trilogy, but I can't be sure at this stage. Much like Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary allows you to toggle between the original and remastered graphics. Personally, I kept it on the remastered graphics for the vast majority of my gameplay, and only flicked between the two throughout just to see the difference. And that is because the Anniversary graphics are absolutely stunning. Like, it's pretty amazing the visual improvements and progress that's been made and how much of a difference you can actually see. Arguably, there was a charm about the original graphics in Halo CE, but in Halo 2 there's just no comparison. The new graphics blow the old ones out of the water. Like, there's a heap of work that's gone into this. For example, check out the difference in lighting when you look at a brightly lit area after being in the dark. Like, the way the brightness fades over time is pretty remarkable to simulate the eyes adjusting to the light. Like, who thinks of this? Now, moving on to the art style, Halo 2 still retains much of that classic Halo flair, and it's all really well done, especially with the remaster. I mean, from the character models to the weapons, from the scenery to the ships, from the level design to the story cutscene, it's all gorgeous, especially the remaster.
Possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
Moving on to sound design, it's an improvement over the first game, but nothing spectacular. I mean, it was well done in Combat Evolved, and I don't think there's too much more that could have been improved. I will say that I really like that they've updated a lot of the environmental and ambient world sounds though, especially when you toggle between the graphics options. Speaking of which, you may notice the soundtrack is different when you're toggling between the two versions also, like this. And here's another example. Now, the voice acting in my opinion is pretty great, especially David Scully, who plays Johnson, the angry sergeant, and he's probably one of the most entertaining characters in the game.
Dear humanity, we regret being alien bastards. We regret coming to Earth. And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Hoorah!
Cortana and Master Chief both sound as good as ever, with Jen Taylor and Steve Downes returning.
What if you miss?
I won't.
But the always recognizable Keith David also makes an appearance and does an awesome job as the Arbiter.
Even on my knees, I do not belong in their presence. What use am I? I can no longer command ships, lead troops into battle.
Not as you are, no.
Alright, the music. The goddamn music. I don't think I've played a game where the soundtrack and score is so ever present. I can't remember if I mentioned it in my Halo CE video, but one of the issues for me was always that the score dies out far too quickly and often, and you're just sort of left with what feels like silence. When it comes to Halo 2 though, this issue isn't nearly as bad. The soundtrack, although it doesn't loop, plays much longer and more consistently. One of the key parts I love about this sequel is how the developers have really stepped up their game in pretty much every aspect, and the frequency of the music is a huge improvement. A lot of the original tracks have also been remixed and expanded upon, and it's all done in a way that fits the awesome action sequences. Like, check this out. And here. And probably one of my favorites. I think if you bear in mind, even though the remaster is now a decade old, this is a gem of a game. Halo 2 to me is the much improved sequel that all too often fails, except it doesn't.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
Because Halo 2 is the Dark Knight to Halo 1's Batman Begins, the epic sequel to an established title.
Finishing this fight.
All right. Shoot.
And because of that, I definitely do recommend Halo 2 Anniversary in 2023. If you've managed to sit through this whole video, thank you so much for watching. I'm still looking to upload a brand new video once a fortnight, but be sure to let me know what else you'd like to see in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Hopefully, I'll catch you in the next one.